In this episode, I'm going to teach you how to fix and stop your squat from turning into a good morning. Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Dr. Aaron Horschig and this is episode 24 of the Ask Squat You Show. Hope you guys are having a great week of training so far. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you guys are ready for a great episode. Let's get to today's question.
Ryan writes, can you talk about fixing the good morning squat, please?
Now, what exactly is the good morning squat? Well, it's a technique fault where the hips rise excessively fast on the ascent of the squat. It's also called a stripper squat for that reason. So I'm going to show you a quick example of what that looks like, and then we'll get into how to fix it. So the ascent will look good of the squat, but on the way up, the hips are going to rise excessively fast. Did you see it? If not, let me show you from the side now.
So the big thing is that the hips will rise excessively fast on the way up, which pushes the chest forward and the lifter off balance.
Now, before we get into how to fix this fault, we need to have a quick lesson in biomechanics on the concept of Lombard's paradox. Now, this explains a concept by biomechanist W.B. Lombard, dates back all the way to the early 1900s. Now, let's start off with a little anatomy. On the front side of your thigh, you have muscles that cross one joint and two joints. These are called mono and biarticulate muscles. You have your vastus muscles that cross just the knee. They kick out. You have muscles like the rectus femoris that cross both the knee and the hip joint. They can help kick, but they can also bring your knee forward. On the back side of your thigh, you have your glutes and your hamstring muscles. Now the glutes do a great job of extending the hip, which helps you drive out of the bottom of a squat. Your hamstrings, like your semitendinosus, can also do that, but because they cross two joints, they can also help flex the knee. So your body has two and one joint muscles. Now, during a squat, a funny thing happens. Your body uses the muscles that cross two joints to actually transfer force between the knee and the hip. This is what I mean.
Lombard's paradox describes how muscles that should technically oppose each other are both active during certain movements. For example, when we perform a squat, the hamstrings and the quads are both activated. When you stand up from the bottom of the squat, the hips and the knees extend at the same time. During this process, the two joint muscles of the hamstrings and the rectus femoris are activated but don't change in length. Instead of cramping and freezing, the activation of the hamstrings and the rectus femoris allow for a distribution of power between the two joints to help the muscles that only cross one joint, the glutes, and the vastus muscles of the quads. So basically, the glutes can indirectly extend the knee joint, and the quads can indirectly extend the hip joint.
What this means is that even in a front squat, where there's more torque placed on the knee joint, the body doesn't activate the quads more so than, let's say, a low bar back squat. The body naturally increases the amount of force generation by transferring from the hips to knees to overcome that increase in torque generation at the knee joint in a front squat. In the same way, during a back squat that has more torque generated at the hips, the body redistributes force from the quads through the biarticulate or two joint muscles of the thigh to help aid the hips in overcoming that torque to be able to stand back up. But it requires the body to stay in balance, and this means that the two joint muscles, like your rectus femoris and your semitendinosus of your hamstrings, have to stay at a constant length, meaning your body has to stay in balance. However, research has shown that eventually, as we hit the fatigued state, either with too many repetitions or with too heavy of weight, our body's coordination naturally breaks down and our body is thrown off balance. Basically, during the squat, we reach a point where our chest tips forward on the ascent of the squat because we're unable to remain in balance. Now, what happens is that actually disrupts our Lombard paradox. Because our chest dips forward, our hips rise excessively fast, and our hamstrings and our rectus, muscles that should stay the same length on the ascent, actually lengthen. Now, what happens is that disrupts our body's natural capability to transfer force from the quads to the glutes, which means we no longer have that shared relationship to keep our body in balance on the ascent of a squat.
So because the two joint muscles are not staying the same length on the ascent, the quads are inhibited in transferring force to help the hips extend.
A lot of people will naturally think that the problem of a stripper squat or a good morning squat lies in the quads. They say that when your quads are weak, you have an inability and you rely too much on your glutes. Well, we actually know now, because of Lombard's paradox, that it's not a weakness in the quads, but an inability to allow the body to transfer the force from the quads to the glutes because your body has become out of sync, out of balance. You're unable to transfer that force. So what do we do once the body reaches this fatigue state and the squat turns into a stripper squat or a good morning? Well, the first thing as a coach is to use verbal cues to see if the athlete can correct the technique fault. The most simple is keep your chest up. So as you hit the bottom of the squat, yell chest up, and that's going to help the athlete think and reprogram their movement pattern to have the chest rise in sync with the hips. So the chest and hips should always rise at the same rate during a squat. Now, if they're unable to then correct it with the verbal cue, the only thing left to do is to drop the weight until they can use an acceptable movement pattern. Now, why is this so important? Well, when you have sort of the stripper squat or the good morning squat, as that chest falls forward, you're automatically going to have a ton of force placed on the smaller structures of your low back. Now, all of a sudden, you could go from having a very, very healthy back to a very injured back because a lot of pressure is placed on structures that can't or should not handle that much force. So our risk of injury dramatically goes through the roof when we push through bad technique with a load on our back. Another thing you can do is to work on your coordination out of the bottom of the squat. You can call these 1.5 reps. Some people just call these pause squats. What I want you to do is to sit down in the bottom of the squat, squeeze your glutes, raise up just a little bit to work on your coordination of making sure the hips and chest rise at the same rate, and then go back down. So this is what this is going to look like. So there you go. Hope you guys liked today's Ask What You Show. My question of the day relates to what's currently going on in competition. We have the World Weightlifting Championships going on right now in Anaheim, California. So my question is, have you been watching the competition? And if so, what's your favorite part that's happened so far? Your favorite event and possibly one of your favorite lifts? Hope you guys are enjoying these Ask What You shows. If you are, please share them with your friends, comment below, and let me know. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week of training, and until next time, happy squatting.
Hometown hero on the road doing shows and sold out arenas. You can call me what you want, but you won't ever slow my dreams up. This is the vision of a dreamer. I seem to